hard for something you already got. Another orange morning, it's time to show. Another orange morning, it's time to grow. Another orange morning, let the updates flow. Another orange morning, you already know. Friends are coming through the door. Wheels are spinning on the floor. We don't know what we don't know. That's the only way to grow. Oh, another orange morning, it's time to show. Another orange morning, it's time to grow. Another orange morning, let the updates flow. Another orange morning, you already know. What you're looking for is in your hand. Been there all along. Pour another cup and pull a chair. Sing along. Another orange morning, it's time to show. Another orange morning, it's time to grow. Another orange morning, let the updates flow. Another orange morning, you already know. Hey! Hey!
Good morning, HubSpot Nation. Welcome to another Orange Morning. It's June 22nd, 2026, also Monday. So we have Mr. Oaks here joining us. Good morning, Casey and
Good
Oaks.
morning.
Good morning. My favorite ongoing bit on the show is Chris forgetting how dates work in the middle of saying the date. It's
Yeah.
2026. It is the 22nd, Monday, June.
Yeah, pretty much. That just happened. We keep each other honest and accountable here on another Orange Morning. And lo and behold, no updates today. HubSpot was off on Friday, as many of us were in the US. And but luckily, we haven't seen Oaks in a while. So I think this is a good opportunity to get his take on anything that's happened since we last saw him. One of the bigger things was last week. Revenue Hub is a thing now. Refresh of Commerce Hub, but there's been a lot going on otherwise. So, what has as I say that, Oaks, have you been impacted directly by any of the changes since we last saw you?
I have not had a chance to roll out one of the changes, and it wasn't a new update. It was a revised update, but it's one that I've had my eyes on, and I think it would be interesting to talk at some point about like how we could, I guess meaning HubSpot, make this kind of thing easier. But there is the new formula options in custom report builder logic, which was revised on the 18th but shipped, and I entered the beta back in like April, March, earlier in the year, I guess, if I pull it up. March it looks like, but which is there you go. I don't know if I can share my screen. So I think this needs to get applied to custom properties as well. I've been posting about every other month on LinkedIn, like, for the love of God, why can't we have case statements in our formula builders, which allow you to take what case statements are, is to let you take a set of inputs, typically like across different dimensions or properties or tables or columns, whatever, and say, if a record has these set of conditions, then make my custom property here output value X. If it has these separate conditions, output Y. So you might say like, if the original source is organic traffic and the landing page is X and the, I don't know, something else, then output, campaign A. And if it's a different set of those, looking across different properties, campaign B, that kind of thing. That's a terrible use case, but it's probably the easiest to understand. And at least with the custom report builder, if you're on Pro with this, you can kind of mimic data sets where you could create custom columns that kind of follow a similar logic to, in the context of your report, be able to flag for a stakeholder who's like, hey, I need to know how many, their screenshot here. I want a pie graph of like high versus low value deals based on our custom criteria. Then you can take your conditional inputs and then output these sort of ad hoc values to build a report without having to go custom property or whatever, or build a list and out and pull it into the report. So I think this is a handy update to be able to, especially for those kind of like ad hoc things where you have values that kind of are data model compliant and set up for AI and clean and hygiene and all of that, and your stakeholders think about that data in qualitative ways, right? Like we have deal priorities and we have conditional, or we have, stage conversion percentage, weighted values and all of that. But in any given quarter, your understanding of like, hey, our critical deals this quarter, I need a pie graph of that. This is the kind of thing that you can use to like whip those reports up. And it's really helpful for kind of bridging that gap between the complicated multifaceted data and the kind of ad hoc analysis and reporting needs that our stakeholders often have. So I'm happy to see this kind of thing expand. I would love when we get updates like this for Breeze to be helpful at finding all of the like CRBs that we have where we've done this with the handwritten or Breeze written formula, like if then statements, right? Like if I could write from this update that I'm in the beta for, have a like, hey, here's a button that will open a conversation with Breeze, identify reports that have these formulas that look like they're candidates, and then have Breeze auto build this with, any input or direction from me if needed to convert these past, janky, manually maintained type in formulas into a builder like this. That would be great.
Or even like properties, because even those custom formulas are fairly new still. I know I have portals where I've built like workflows and properties and segments to kind of get to this if then output. But I agree, when I first read this, I was like, wow, the amount of tech debt that this solves for is kind of incredible.
Yeah, and like the formula builder and custom reports, longest running beta ever, right? Like that beta has been open for I don't know how many years. It's crazy.
Well, how many humans are good at this part, or want to get good at this part, or even know that to answer some of the questions that they're being asked to report on, they need to be good at this part? And how do you bridge that gap with talking to Breeze Assistant about it? So as you were describing your example, I was trying to like figure out which question you're trying to answer, and I just started with that. Like, can you give me a pie chart that helps show high value deals versus low value deals? And this is in a place where not uncommon from what happens in daily practice, nobody's actually defined high value deal versus low value deal, right? So with no setup or governance or definition as to what I'm talking about here, Breeze is going to give it the old college try, and like figured out a way to make it look 50-50.
What's the if I was going to put money on it, my bet would be its first attempt would be to try to figure out the median, right? Which means it's always going to be 50-50.
Right. Yep.
Is that what I can't read the screen? Does it say?
Yes,
it says the median value. Wow, so helpful, Breeze. Oh, yeah. What would we do without Breeze?
Right. Well, I think that's where, I think the tough part is you mentioned all the qualitative stuff, right? That often actually decides what's high value and low value. And that's why people don't do it inside. They do it during the sales meeting.
Well, and then their spreadsheet.
Right. Well, because they've got to back calculate percentage to close and like this value matrix that they've created that is not like calculable outside of how I feel right now.
Right. Or, I mean, the number one thing that I think influences that and that makes it a multi-conditional decision or analysis is it's often like what your quarterly initiative is, right? Which might be like a geo or a segment or a product or upsells or something like that, right? Like whatever our focus is, we're trying to hit 50, 50 upsells of a particular add-on in a quarter, right? As a goal, as a sales team. What's high value is everybody who has that line item on their quote or potentially would be a candidate for that upsell, right? And that's where you get where you stack on the tech debt of like, okay, and the last admin put a checkbox of like, is eligible for upsell product on the deals. And so then you have this, cruft. Or if you're lucky, they were like, okay, we need to like eligibility multi-checkbox, which is still, don't do that. It's bad. And you have all of that you're dealing with to try to like insert these, I used qualitative, but like softer dimensions of how we define what a valuable deal is, right? Like logos are always, it's like you've got whatever Toyota on the line for a deal. It's like, okay, well that's high priority, right? And the like low, medium, high priority is a squishy way to handle that and works if you are honest about what's high priority, but it doesn't help you distinguish, oh, this is a good opportunity from this is Toyota or this is whatever, somebody big, right?
Right. And this is turning out to be a perfect like tutorial, I think, because so with like squishy, like all these words that just humans have not been good at managing, and often we will go this route to try to explain why this route will not work. Like we will do so much to try and say, hey, based on data, we have gaps here. We have like, it's not going to make sense. So we have to rethink like how we do this report or what we're talking about right now. We show up the same time every week and we run into the same challenges where people aren't aligned on what value looks like and which ones we should prioritize. And so all I did is like, but what about from a qualitative perspective, not based on dollar amount alone? What could we do there? Is a story to tell? Is there a story to tell? And at the very least, what we can use Breeze Assistant for now is removing the felt need to create a bunch of stuff just to prove like how bad the current like data is or our processes or whatever. Because as Breeze is saying here, I'm gonna look at your active deals through a qualitative lens. Like, so hard for humans to do that in any kind of like meaningful way that can then be communicated well like to somebody else. So there's a little bit of like objectivity that you can add here, where if it's a human doing it, it's like just gets real personal and subjective like real quick, whether you mean to or not.
I'm going to interject there and say I agree with that, but I would say that like when that is happening, aside from if we leave aside, you know, pure like bad faith or total inexperience, real bias, what is missing here is what we would typically call intuition in a human context, which is to say the sales leader knowing, having the context of like the VP has kind of intimated that like, you know, we should be focusing on something, or they're concerned about performance in some area, but this is not something that we are formalizing or putting to a PIP or whatever, or they were really excited about X, and so I need to bring them good news about X. And that is bias in the absolute sense, but it is the good kind of bias, I guess. And it is something that's really hard to do in the context of interacting with an AI in some capacity, even if you are really experienced, right? Because of overfitting and the desire to please. And so like folks that are like, oh, Breeze, tell me what show me like the most important deals, and these are the ones that really matter. Then Breeze is going to only show you those and not be able to bring in as many dimensions to that weighting as a human is doing it. The long-term question is like how we bring those things together, right? Like what Breeze is missing is a way for that context to be more expansive and repurposable when that's the right approach.
Yeah. So this definitely has to, it's measured in a way that you're trying to be measured in like, how much do I build in HubSpot just so I can tell this story, because it's not going to work. They're just going to show data gaps all over the place. Everybody means well in what they're asking for, but the work that we have to do to try and, you know, show what kind of process needs to be improved to get to where they want to go. Right. Like I love seeing, and so Breeze went right to the places where a lot of people go to, like deal score, forecast category, close probability, right? All like traditionally terrible, like in terms of execution in organizations. For this reason, I confirmed you do have qualitative fields available, but the current data is patchy, and the first pass exposed mixed pipeline hygiene. So I'm tightening the query to open deals only and using the strongest signals that are actually populated.
Well, there's that's Breeze, right? Why do you do this? But I will say that's probably the most glowing review of pipeline data hygiene I've ever seen. Mixed pipeline hygiene. Like, oh man, pop champagne. That's fantastic if you only have mixed hygiene.
But I think this is why, like, so it's, as you're alluding to, Oaks, it's so easy to bias like AI in any way. So if you ask it to show you specific, like if you try to define the value and nobody in your org has defined the value, then all of a sudden you're going to define value based on that exchange that you're about to have with Breeze, because they're going to find it. They're going to help you define it and then not worry about whatever else could be used. So these general kind of questions, like, is there a story here? What's the story here? Tell me the story, right? Which is not specific to any variable yet, right? Because this is the story. It's pipeline discipline. It's process. The process is bad. It has nothing to do with actual deals
Mhm.
and what their actual value is, right? So
Mhm.
more of a pipeline discipline story than a rich buyer intent story. So I'm rendering that clearly as I can, instead of pretending the qualitative layer is fuller than it is.
Well, now this really makes me think that Breeze has been trained on every conversation an admin has had with a stakeholder, but has just made it a little less frustrating for everybody, right? Like
I mean,
you
and
ask
that
for a qualitative story and it's like, well, look, we don't have the data for that, but since you keep pressuring me, I'll show you something and it's going to be about the data. It's not going to be about answering the question that you actually have.
right. Um, and if you can get us there, I think a huge opportunity with Breeze is like, all right, I'm about to talk to the CFO right now. Help me put the CFO like lens on this. Help me put the CTO, sales, marketing, like getting this foundation. Again, it's a conversational learning curve that I think can help every HubSpot admin and manager right now. Because I believe that's also what's required to make progress with Revenue Hub. So
Yeah, I think we still have such a context gap here, right? Like in every AI tool, inclusive of Breeze and HubSpot, this is not a tool specific issue, but these conversations, boy, this is always where we're going to go with this, right? These conversations, like if I don't know how, like whatever comes two versions after Fable, if we don't solve the context problem, it's not going to um, be able to come into a chat and be like, hey, I'm meeting with the CFO about high value deals or whatever. Um, the it's too late without the context being properly set up for that to work, right? Like the the there's the like time bound, which is the example of the like, well, here's what our focus is this quarter, dimension of that. The last thing you want is going into a meeting with the CFO, the AI to be based on use its training data to decide what's important to a CFO, because you're going to sound like an intern in that conversation. Like, I know that ROI is really important to you, and they're like, actually, we're here to talk about the price of your HubSpot subscription, and you're like, oh crap. And so like and HubSpot's heading this direction. I wish they would be more aggressive on this, but of the context layer, right? Like we've got the brand context and ICP and some of that stuff being built in to enable Breeze and customer agent, etc. But like HubSpot needs, for somebody who doesn't use Revenue Hub, for example, HubSpot needs better understanding of the way that the business operates. It needs an understanding of these, like, here's our time-bound priorities, here's our historicals, here's all of these other pieces, so that otherwise it's just a lossy conversation where I have to come in and voice dictate for free association for 5 minutes about like what I think maybe this meeting with the CFO I got called into is going to be about, which then becomes like a Breeze enabled therapy session about my anxieties about this that like there's just so many moving pieces where customer platform having that context would unlock so much of that kind of like reporting, analysis, and review.
I almost feel like There are settings in HubSpot to exclude internal communications, calls, emails, things like that. And I almost wish we weren't doing that, but we were like putting those in their own little context bucket, because that's what we need context on in so many of those areas, like deal prioritization and things like that.
Yeah.
Always a struggle when a user is put in a position like, do I log this email or not? And if you can't find a way to like get pretty, in my opinion, fairly absolute, like on those rules, you're always going to be missing stuff. And that's like a big part of the conversations in my second attempt to bring this back to Revenue Hub and Commerce Hub.
I'm not gonna let you.
A big reason I started talking about HubSpot as a communication and relationship management platform is because basically, if you can allow yourself to manage any human relationship via HubSpot, it's the best place to manage communication at scale across all the different channels and contextualize it in a way that teams need it to be contextualized to understand, what's happening. But especially on the back office side of the business, everybody's concerned about data privacy and moments like that. But even there, especially when you get to the financial side of things, like all of this stuff, are we lacking any permissions or securities at this point that teams truly need to do all their stuff in HubSpot? Like, what's actually in the way?
Well, I think I don't know if we are truly purely lacking some of those things. I definitely think there's a lot of areas where the infrastructure is not up to snuff. Sorry, HubSpot, about to like enable some of these things. I mean, I love Casey's idea of like, how do we what's the vision? What's a vision for a way that we kind of have internal / back office siloed from the customer motion to formulate that context and structure, right? Like the one of the things that bothers me all the time is like, if we set our users and teams and permission sets, which are more tightly coupled now than they used to be, but if we set that up correctly, we have an org chart, and we should be able to do that without them having to like be invited and logged in, right? And so like suddenly we have a lot of useful context about like when if I'm an IC and I've been there for 2 years and I've never had an email from the CEO in my inbox that wasn't a broadcast to the whole company, that should be up prioritized, right? There's no systems that do that. They would need to know the org chart, or they could read the signature or something, I guess. But like, that's an example. If you start to combine things, like Casey said, there's never log, which is one of the constant debates about like, well, should we turn on never log for all internal emails, and like don't ever ask internal legal counsel about what you should do about that, because you're just in for a headache if you do. Like, I think there's a lot of dimensions to that like, if I wanted to have my internal org chart, and instead of me storing in my head somewhere some like, oh, here's how I relate to the COO in a relational sense, in a communication sense, or like, the CEO hates long emails, right? There isn't a safe place in me for HubSpot to store that information, me as that IC. I personally store that information in the contact records in my HubSpot portal. But there, if a super admin can read my notes about, how I relate to the folks in the business, that is useful context for me when working, that doesn't make it feel safe or personal, right? That I have no
Yeah.
I have no delusions that any of that is going on HubSpot's roadmap anytime soon. But I think that nature of like, how do I make Breeze work better for me in that scenario? I make it as safe and comfortable as for me to say to Claude, the COO hates long emails, but also wants the full context and detail. So here's how, I don't know, help me figure out how to do that, Claude, right? Like, I can't say that to Breeze or store information like that safely in the company HubSpot portal.
Right.
I just think like we had that conversation about like deals and high value and low value deals. And we talked about like, in the sales meeting, you'll hear like the equations that people are doing. Just like imagine if Breeze had that context from the past 6 months of sales meeting where they've heard those kind of conversations out loud. And then suddenly Breeze is able to kind of start working towards those calculations.
Yeah. Totally. At the very least, like the ability to translate a quarterly sales kickoff, right? Like, can we get the bulleted output from that conversation from the sales leader somewhere that is reusable in Breeze and not going to be like, oh, Q2 priority is this. And it's like, no, Breeze, that was Q2 2024. You're not reading the full context, right? Can we get that somewhere repurposable?
Yeah. It looks like they're heading in this direction though. If we like, I just clicked on the AI context, which is in the Breeze Studio area. And like, so business customers, team and processes like this, those are the buckets when we're going through value for scoping. It's like, if we don't understand these things, we're not going to be able to help implement, HubSpot very well. Right. And doing these things like agnostic of all the tools and systems, first and foremost.
You're going to click on teams and processes, right?
It's as Claude likes to say, it's a stub right now, but yeah. So
I'm just trying to find, scroll down. I'm sure the processes are at the bottom.
Yeah, no, this is how far we go right now. So baby steps here. So just providing an overview of your company information, customers, and teams and processes, right? Like there is motion towards that. And I'm very interested to see like so much of this. I guarantee there's a bunch of information in the background, like contextually, that understands this already. But that's the kind of stuff that Oaks was just talking about, where like, how do you display it in any kind of way that doesn't cause more heartache than value?
Let's I'll bring it over to Revenue Hub, kind of, which is like what's not represented here very well. But is captured, right? I don't think it's, let me just double check that it wasn't like moved somewhere that I didn't notice. Okay, yeah, so products is moved under business, right? But the products and services can be added there. Those still those are not very deep. But yeah, this is an area where right now it's under Breeze. I expect it to be like in settings at some point, but I'm very much looking forward to the additional sub tabs that get added there to fill out the kind of context that should be that can be available, including like process definitions that maybe connect somehow to skills that Breeze can run and mix a human in the loop with Breeze activity there, or connect to workflows or the AI automation beta somehow. But that but at least like products, right, is a good one there. But like overall revenue model, there's a lot of businesses where they don't have just like a simple, like, we sell these line items, this is revenue coming in, that having some, like if I was working with Claude, some simple mermaid diagrams that go into the project context for a client that explain some of these nuances go a long way toward getting much more targeted, accurate, valuable responses in chats, much less being able to expand that into using AI in other areas like automation for the business. Anyway, will it workflow?
Successfully filibuster?
Yeah, so we do just Will It Breeze now. I just haven't updated the website.
Folks, I'm still a little confused on the rules of Will It Breeze also.
Is it will Breeze refuse? Is that the yes or no? Will Breeze just absolutely refuse? We'll have to expand the values on the wheels,
I mean, this is like the marketing trick here is the answer is always yes.
Right.
And as an example of that, you just talked about like mermaid diagrams and processes. Like, first of all, like most of our humans are not good at this part, like documenting process at all, creating diagrams to visually explain processes to others, right? There also haven't been a lot of good systems.
That's why you have Breeze or Claude do it, and then you put it in here, and then nobody has to think about it.
We also haven't had good places like to store that stuff because Miro and Lucid and Visio and like all these other things.
I am not going to let you talk crap about Miro on this show.
I'm not talking crap about it. I'm saying that we are spread everywhere. Like the context gets spread everywhere, which like results in it being like, it's rare. It's like to see this inside of the CRM, right? It hasn't been built for that. But as you see, like, Marketing Studio and journey mapping and the new workflow builder, like they are trying everything in their power to truly help us unify context, right? Because AI needs it. Our humans have always needed it, but they have found where there's a will, there's a way, right? Using whatever tools so that when they can have the next conversation internally or externally, they have the context they need.
Right.
And now like the bridge of filling these in is, I think, here. And as we do these conversations, like we talked about this being understood in the background right now, like Breezes can learn, like just by having conversations like this, and then being able to decide whether you store it in a knowledge vault or things like that, right? Like just the simple ask, can you give me some mermaid diagrams? What we want you to understand is like, will it Breeze mermaid diagrams? Yes. Start asking Breeze, like just to help yourself. Like this, I wouldn't expect these to be perfect, but when it comes back with, okay, all right, cool, you did some numbers, I have a usable story now, right? Oh, I don't really understand it. Like, can you show it to me like in a different way, right? And even like this is, I wasn't sure where it was going to go, but as we think about how we explain this to others, it's like contacts created, assigned to people, are they worked? Sales follow-up activity, new deals advanced, qualitative pipeline progression. It's using my deal stages and then mapping them to what it has decided are strong at risk in developing, right? Like, just, you don't have to chew on these things by yourself, like, anymore, I think is the key. It's not like gospel or written stone. It will go that direction if you want it to, or you let it, right? But being able to come in here and have the conversations you need to have and ask the questions that you're in your mind. Because so much of this is like, oh man, I finally got the meeting that I've been asking for, that I do think we're getting the ROI on HubSpot. And this should be an easy conversation about how much it costs the business and relating it to the value. But I know that conversation will go better if I make the most brilliant slides, or I put all these maps together that show exactly what our processes look like and how it all maps to the value. And then we don't get in there. We don't get that done because it's really not the best. It's not a priority, like,
Right.
against the work that we do every day. And then we show up to the meeting, like, scrambling, not being able to communicate the value of HubSpot well, and then having it continue to be like, oh, okay, well, I believe you. I want to believe you. But let's do better next year, or next time we review this. And that, I think what we underestimate is how much that sentiment travels outside of that conversation.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
I mean, I would say for sure. And what based on, all of my years working with clients, I would say that if you can show up, when you show up with those deliverables, let's call them, the conversation is more effective. Confidence in you as the vendor or as the IC is like tenfold, because within the organizations, most teams don't have that level of documentation, right? So, and your next conversation is more productive too, as opposed to like, well, in that case, put together a report which has to be 10 times more impressive and get that to me. It's Friday. Can you get that to me Monday afternoon? And you're like, oh crap, because the trust has been undermined, right, or at least like loosened up. That's the opportunity now, right, with these tools.
Right. And then you can use this to bring it back full circle to know
Commerce Hub.
exactly which custom report builder, like, calculated property. Like, instead of just testing and then figure out what the gaps are, testing, like, you can just jump ahead to know, like, exactly what you need to do to fill in the gap. And then you have a nice story to show of, like, here are all of the data points that we have, the context points that we have in front of us right now. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Now we can talk through it. And you just, like, the value is assumed, and then you talk through a problem to solve. And then, like, the value of HubSpot doesn't even, like, you're not even, that's not the question you're answering in that moment, right? You're just using it to solve business problems, which at the end of the day, anybody in the C-suite, that's what they want to, might not be the direct question that they're asking, but that's what they want to know is happening with anything that's getting spent on in the business.
Yeah.
Right.
How is this helping me in my initiatives? That's what they want to know.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you both for helping us through a day of no updates. I hope this was helpful.
And
Learning
we
more
didn't
about
even
Breeze.
show Revenue Hub.
Indeed, you guys were successful in that endeavor. So maybe tomorrow.
I mentioned it.
Yeah. Until next time, everybody have a great rest of your Monday.